Afternoon, guys. So let's say you're in the shop and you go to buy a product and you're kind of leading your choices because you've been told that, like, hey, protein is good for you, it makes you feel fuller for longer, so it's going to make you satisfied and you won't need to snack on junk food. So you go in and you find out something says something along the lines of that it is lift that right up, it is a source of protein. So it says something like that. I don't know if you can see that right. So you see this more and more with a lot of companies jumping on board. This is just basically a gluten-free wrap that you can use to put your stuff into. You'll see this more and more with companies that are jumping on board with the knowledge that yes, eating an adequate amount of protein, like a gram of protein per pound of body weight, something around that sort of range for the average individual, is a good recommendation. So a lot of companies are jumping on board and then claiming everything is a source of protein. So if we take something like this as a kind of a normal wrap, and it would have in just one single wrap, it's got like 3.2 grams of protein. So if we take a standard egg in comparison, and a standard egg would have about 6 grams of protein in it, so almost double the amount in as a standard wrap. So the mistake a lot of people will make is that they will pick foods based on the fact that they're told that it has protein in it, so therefore they think it's great for them, but again, at what cost? We're picking something that yes has protein in it, but maybe it has like 4 times more calories than in total calories than, let's say, a standard egg would have. So it's kind of getting your protein in, but at what cost? So there's no point in taking something that contains, like, let's say, 4 times more calories but has it just because it says it's a source of protein. So it's like a vegan or vegetarian claiming that, well, their spirulina powder is a source of protein or is high in protein. You ain't, chucking down like a kilo of spirulina to get in, like 100 grams of protein that day. It's just not going to happen. So again, it's at what cost? Whereas if we compare that against something like a standard egg, or let's say I have like a standard tin of tuna. So even like in 100 grams, which is about half that tin of tuna, you got like 26 grams of protein. And of that, it's roughly around about maybe, it says in 100 grams, it's 114 calories. So 114 calories and you get 26 grams of protein versus, let's say, the standard wrap here, standard wrap is 105 calories and you only get like 3.2 grams. So again, at what cost? There's no point in taking in something that has a fair amount of protein in it, yet you're going to consume far more calories just to get in a decent whack of protein in it. Take a standard like tub of very cheap, these things are cheap, standard peanut butter. So if you take in like a little bit of peanut butter, again, you got to be careful with stuff like nuts like peanut butter, very easy to overdo it on it. But even in something that somebody's saying, well, I am vegan or vegetarian, I want to make sure I get some protein in, we got 29 grams of protein in 100 grams. Now, we're not going to eat 100 grams, but if we consume, let's say, a tablespoon of peanut butter, we've got more protein via this versus, again, trying to think that, like, well, this is going to be a source of protein for me. So just because something says it's a source of protein, again, it comes at what cost? So we need to be looking at the standard and more common sources of protein, like our meat, eggs, milk, fish, as our main kind of protein staples. Obviously, there's going to be some protein in legumes and lentils and nuts and seeds, but the problem with getting your protein from food sources like that is that it generally comes at a high calorie cost, meaning you to get an adequate amount of protein from those sources, it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more calories. That's why it's sometimes very difficult for somebody who is a vegan or vegetarian to get enough protein in from just normal food sources, as opposed to saying, well, I'm going to have a kind of like a whey protein shake, or a pea protein based shake, or a hemp protein based shake instead. So that's what people generally have to do, because to take it in from any other source is going to cost them a heck of a lot of calories. So just because something is a source of protein doesn't really mean a whole lot. You need to be looking at your normal main sources of protein, such as your meat, egg, milk and fish, as your main staples, as opposed to trying to get it from something that's trying to sell you on the idea that, like, hey, this bread has protein in it. So what?